Hello and welcome to another episode of Mindfulness Mondays, a bonus series within the I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness podcast series. I'm your host, Erin Jane. And today I am jumping on to just cover off a couple of bits and pieces, but I will try to keep it short. You know that I'm not always successful at that, but I do endeavor to be. I promise you that. The main premise of this Mindfulness Mondays episode is to share the resource and the concept of bilateral stimulation with you. And when I say bilateral stimulation, please get your mind out of the gutter straight from the get-go, because I know where it just went. Because when I was speaking to, it might have been my husband or a friend about it, their mind went directly into the gutter. So I'm sure yours did too. So we will get to that. But something that I've sort of been thinking about a little bit the last few weeks, kind of almost sort of since like I started speaking with a previous guest that you will probably listen to his episode, Josh Grandinetti from he's a firefighter out in Arizona, and he is a mindfulness meditation instructor, and he has Foundation Fortified, which is specific mindfulness practices for first responders. Awesome organization. They've got some free classes, some mindfulness classes to get you started up on their website now if you want to go check them out. But it was kind of just sort of, in speaking with him for our episode and doing some of like my psychology studies, really learned about the concept of mindfulness as a psychological construct too. And I guess it just kind of made me question, not question like what I called this little section of Mindfulness Mondays, but just I guess I maybe just wanted to offer some clarification, because I don't want to seem like I'm invalidating the premise or the practice of mindfulness, because obviously that's not what this specific podcast is about. It's and mindfulness in terms of, the kind of thing that Josh offers with Foundation Fortified is obviously a very important practice, and it's something that can help first responders. And it's obviously, if you go back and listen to his episode, he's very passionate about it and explains it really well. But I guess the clarification that the way that I was phrasing, or the message behind Mindfulness Mondays, is just kind of quote unquote being mindful in a way outside of that, the practice of mindfulness. That, to be mindful of something it's to be, conscious and aware of it, but also maybe perhaps like inclined or willing to engage in something. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with the term mindful or mindfulness in regards to this. And I guess my desire is to bring awareness, and how do I want to say it? I guess my intention with using that word and that turn of phrase, because, first of all, Mindfulness Mondays, who doesn't love a little bit of alliteration? But basically it was kind of the premise behind it is to bring awareness of our desire here in this first responder mental health and wellness realm. Our desire to, not only like maintain our mental health and wellness, but I guess like be proactive about it too, and I think, being preventative and proactive, it's something that I talk a lot about. So I kind of I just wanted to share that as a clarification, because I don't want to, denigrate or invalidate anything, or like the practice of mindfulness, even though I used that word in the title for this. So I hope that makes sense. I hope it comes across okay. And I just felt like that clarification needed to be made, because I've, either speaking with Josh or I myself have been engaging in his mindfulness free course that he's offering over on Foundation Fortified over there, which is awesome. And I encourage you all to go check it out. But also learning about what mindfulness is as that psychological construct. I guess I have more knowledge and more awareness around mindfulness now than I did at the time when I named it this purely for, alliteration purposes. And, it's a space for me to be able to offer you resources as first responders that I'm learning about as I go along, but also to be able to bring it to you from that psychological background that I'm learning about. And that's just, basically offering you things in order to be able to help you, what's that term they use? Help you thrive, not just survive as a first responder in a career, because most of us are in these jobs for a while and they can take their toll on us. So yes, that was the initial clarification that I just wanted to make today. I hope it makes sense. I know I ramble a little bit, so apologies about that. But secondly, yes, so the main premise of jumping on here today with you is to share about bilateral stimulation. So some of you may have sort of heard of it. I will remind you again, get your head out of the gutter. But when it comes to bilateral stimulation, there's a couple of different formats of it, but basically it's a process or an action of stimulating both sides of our brain, so like the different hemispheres in like an alternating fashion. And so you can have it as like a physical one. You can, so as in like a tapping. You can have it as an eye movement one, which is obviously forms a part of EMDR. Eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing. Which, some of you might know about in the first responder community. The kind of subcategory, I guess, for want of a better term, is the one that I want to share with you about today is the auditory one. So obviously auditory ears, and it's like the bilateral stimulation of hearing something in an alternating fashion in each side of our ears. And yeah, so like I said, different methods, and EMDR might be something that you guys have heard a lot about. It is a treatment modality within psychology and a therapeutic setting, and it has shown a lot of benefit for, in particular, like first responders, military veterans, people who have experienced some kind of trauma and have had, maybe either end up suffering PTSD or just have had significant trouble processing that trauma, getting it out of their mind, getting it out of their body. And, it's been shown to, it's been shown to be successful in treating a lot of people's trauma in that respect, and sort of just diminishing their symptoms. So two guests that I've had on the podcast that I can think of sort of off the top of my head have spoken about it at least a little bit. So Travis Gribble was one of the ones, I think. And more recently, Egan mentioned it a little bit, that he had an experience with EMDR as well. So yeah, but just so obviously bilateral stimulation is a part of EMDR therapy, but it's not the part that I'm going to talk about today, because I'm not a clinician. Hope to be one day, but not there quite yet. So I just wanted to kind of offer a little bit of, clarification. Apparently this episode is all about clarification. But the reason that I do want to share bilateral stimulation with you today, as a, a Mindfulness Monday resource and a strategy, is because bilateral stimulation has been proven to have a really awesome calming effect on not only our brains, but on our nervous system. And that is in part due to the actual bilateral stimulation, or the alternating stimulation that our brain experiences. And so obviously, in preparation to share this with you today, I have sort of like got a few notes that I tend to prefer to, I'll write notes for these episodes. I do tend to prefer to speak a little more off the cuff, but I do have notes in particular for this one. So if you are watching, probably not going to look at the camera as much as sometimes I normally do. So I apologize about that. And if you are listening and you hear a little bit of paper movement. My sincere apologies. I'm not trying to turn this into some kind of ASMR session. If you're after something like that, well, send me a DM and I'll see what I can do for you. So when it comes to bilateral stimulation, it increases or enhances, so I guess I'm delving into like the benefits of it. So it increases and enhances the communication capabilities between the hemispheres of our brain. And that's basically where our neuroplasticity comes into play. And it can increase the levels of some really important neurotransmitters that help us with those happy, feel goods, overall positive well-being experiences that we can have. And so in particular, the ones that this kind of stimulation is meant to produce is dopamine and serotonin. And they are obviously a part of those 4 really key, kind of positive neurotransmitters that really help us, give us that natural high and those feel good things. And the acronym is DOSE, which you probably all know. It's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphin. So all of those happy, feel-good ones, and bilateral stimulation promotes or produces 2 of them. So that's always a win in my book. And so most importantly, the main reason that I wanted to share it with you today, aside from the neuroplasticity and the neurotransmitters, is that bilateral stimulation has been linked to us being able to induce or activate our parasympathetic nervous system. And so obviously, if you listened to my previous episode a few weeks ago, where I shared about deep diaphragmatic breathing, that as well, obviously is a tool and a resource and something that we can do for ourselves to pull us out of that stress response, out of that fight or flight, and actually put our body and be in control of our body and put our body into a state of calm, a state of relaxation, really induce that relaxation response, and which I referred to in that previous episode. It's known as like the rest and digest. So it's when our body just takes like a big fucking deep breath and gets to calm down. So that's what bilateral stimulation can do for you. And primarily there is a complicated terms and parts of the brain that it affects and all that kind of thing. But one of the main ones is it basically just helps calm our amygdala down. And our amygdala is that, lizard brain part of our head that, really is integral in terms of either our stress response or our relaxation response. So if you're after any more information, you can find it yourself on the internet. Alternatively, if you have any other questions, I'm always happy to answer them in the best capacity that I can. I'm not an expert, but I just am here trying to share some things with you that I think may just help. So, any questions, always feel free to reach out. But yeah, so overall, and again, I'm just going to refer to some of my notes here, but overall, bilateral stimulation it's known as quite an incredible resource that actually helps, bring down and reduce people's anxiety levels. So that is sort of something that it's really well known for. But in terms of like the effects of, many of our stress related conditions, this is kind of where it comes into play for first responders and emergency services and people in our realm, because we endure a lot of stress as part of our profession, and it can linger and it can go into our personal lives too. So for it to be a resource for you to be able to just help with that, I think it's worthy to share and worthy to, even just take a look at. And, not everything I share is going to be your jam, and that's okay. But I'm just happy to, throw it out there anyway. And obviously, like a lot of people in our realm end up experiencing, obviously you've got the disordered part of post-traumatic stress disorder, but each and every one of us as a first responder, we experience post-traumatic stress. We do, because it is a natural human response to being exposed to something traumatic. It's just part of our job. And that's the truth of it. And it doesn't have to get to that disordered state for it to impact us. So a lot of people that we probably all know, have ended up suffering from it and to a debilitating state. But I think just trying to share resources that can help in a little way. That's all we're about here. So listening to the bilateral stimulation, and the one that I'm in particular wanting to share with you today is like a music-based one. It promotes an overall sense of relaxation in the way that it affects our brain. And I have tried it because I do not throw anything out there that I have not tried and tested or researched or looked into myself, because that is part of me wanting to be authentic with you guys and what do I like to say, walk my talk. So it is I'd sort of like heard of it before and was just like, oh yeah, I'll go check this out. And I jumped on, I can't remember if I jumped on Spotify or YouTube. They're like two of the main places where you could find it. But when you listen in, it's quite like a visceral experience, and you can really, it's kind of like, it's something that you experience like throughout your whole body. Like it's really it's a very noticeable sensation that I at least experienced, and if you guys try it out and want to give me some feedback and let me know what your experience was too. But it just, yeah, it was quite unique. I would give it that, and it's actually something I've sort of gone to and utilized a couple of times myself if I was just feeling a little bit stressed out or whatever else. And it is very, I found it personally to be very calming in a very beautiful, and I kind of want to say overwhelming way, but not overwhelming in a bad way, like overwhelming, just like a wave of calm overwhelmed me in a good way. So it's probably like a terrible description, but I found a lot of benefit in it. So hence the reason I'm sharing it here with you today. But obviously, like inducing those feel good neurotransmitters, and it helps you feel that level of happiness and possibly just even like a sense of balance. Because, if you're trying to pull yourself out of that stress state, that activated state, balancing yourself out by listening to this, could really just, help you feel that balance. I talked about in the Deep Diaphragmatic Breathing one about returning to homeostasis. I don't know whether like you want to kind of go that far in describing it in that way, but I think it definitely has the ability to calm you down. And there's, the statistical and empirical research to back that up. But so, like I said, might not necessarily be for everyone, and that's okay, but I would rather offer it, for a tool and a resource and all that kind of fun stuff. So you have it should you choose to use it. But so it works by providing you that sense of calm, that relief, that relaxation. And so I hope if you try it and it does that for you, then bloody brilliant. And I think it's something that if you do enjoy engaging in it, it has the propensity to assist you in improving emotional regulation. Obviously, having that ability to kind of calm yourself down if you're feeling a bit anxious, stressed out in that activated state. And when you have that better emotional regulation, at the same time, it reduces our reactivity to stresses. So it kind of has that leveling out effect of like, it helps you regulate your emotions. Therefore, when you experience a similar or a common type of stress, because if you are emotionally regulated, then it makes you less reactive to that stress in the future. So, that's just something that I guess, as first responders, from my perspective, it would help you out in a professional sense and in a personal sense, considering, the roles that we do and the things that we see in the line of our job. But yeah, so whether you utilize it, you've got a couple of different options. So I was sort of like thinking about it, and whether you utilize it like after a difficult or a challenging call, when you're really just kind of agitated or worked up or upset, anxious, any of those kind of things, you could, it's something that you could utilize after that. You could utilize it as part of like your wind down routine. If you've got, you're finishing your shift and you've got kids you've got to get home to, and you have to just kind of switch from that work mode, that firefighter, that police officer, that correctional officer, EMT, paramedic, dispatcher, you've got to jump out of work mode and turn into mum or dad mode. Sometimes that transition is not easy. So this is also something that, you could bang, on the Bluetooth, on the radio, when you're driving home from work, and kind of calm yourself down and really be able to show up for your people in the way that you want to. Or you could, listen to it before you go to bed. It really depends on what kind of effect it has on you, and whether you find any benefit in it. So yeah, like I said, give it a try, see how you go. I love hearing from you guys, and I love feedback. And if it's something that you find beneficial, well, then nothing else would make me happier. And I do really love feedback on the podcast episodes, on these mini series ones. And so in saying that, and it's not something that I have said previously or would normally ask you to do, but if you enjoy listening to the episodes that I'm putting out, if you don't mind, jump on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening, and give us a rating, leave a comment. If you want to leave 5 stars, I would appreciate that. But alternatively, just anything helps in the, not the ratings, but as in helps like share it. Helps get the message out there of what we're trying to do in the, first responder mental health and wellness realm. So if you would, wouldn't mind doing that, I would be really appreciative. Or, share the podcast with a friend who you think you might like it, or they might like one of these Mindfulness Monday, strategies, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, just really wanting to like share this as a resource for people. Okay. And I, obviously I'm very uncomfortable asking people to do that kind of thing. If you couldn't, hear it in my voice. But yeah, just reach a broader audience with the message that we are here and we want to help. So that's pretty much it. The last thing that I want to share with you is, and I'm already getting a little bit long for a Mindfulness Monday episode, so I apologize about that. I'll wrap it up as quickly as I can. But the last thing that I want to share is the fact that I have a new gig starting this week. If you haven't heard of it already, it's called the Thin Line Rock Station. So as you might guess from the name, it is like a internet radio show, like an entire network basically, that is dedicated to first responders and emergency services members. They have a website and they also have their own app. So like if you jumped on, Spotify or Pandora or any of the music things that you listen to, they are the Thin Line Rock Station. And you can jump on and listen, and they promote first responder businesses. All of like their hosts / DJs are either former or current first responders. And yeah, they kind of jump on and spin some tunes and play some good music. And I was offered a position a couple of times a week to play some music and share some mental health and wellness tips. So I am super excited to be joining the Thin Line Rock Station family. I will be on every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, 2 till 4 p.m. And so any of my Aussie audience, now that the clocks have changed, that means, so Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, that will be your Wednesday and Friday mornings 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. So any of my lovely Aussie mates out there, if you listen in on your drive to work, on the train into town, any of those fun things, you can listen in. So the music they play, you know, it says like Thin Line Rock Station, but the music is very eclectic. Like you can do a little bit of Tay-Tay. There's, you know, Iron Maiden, which would make my husband very happy, AC/DC, you know, it kind of really runs the gambit of, you know, Bob Seger and basically anything that you can even think of like music genre that, you know, they could play, they play it. So yeah, if you want to listen in, I would be really grateful. If you want to shout out for a song request or something, I can see what I can do. If you like me to talk about something on there, any mental health or wellness topic, want me to talk a little bit more about any of the resources that I share on here, happy days. But yeah, so I am pretty excited to be, becoming a host on the Thin Line Rock Station a couple of times a week. And this opportunity, I must say, and I know I've already given him a shout out in this episode, but this opportunity would not have been possible without Josh Grantinetti from Foundation Fortified, because he too is a host on the Thin Line Rock Station. His show is on Wednesdays, 12 till 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And he was the one that led me to them and facilitated an introduction to the owners. So big shout out to him too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So lastly, I will say that in terms of the bilateral stimulation, there's a couple of different things or types of things that you can listen to. One of them is tones. And I'm sensitive to the fact that a lot of you guys, tones are utilized at work for you. You know, if you're a firefighter, a paramedic, EMS, all that kind of thing, like tones going off is not going to be calming to you. It's going to be, you know, a little bit of a Pavlovian response that it's probably actually going to have the complete opposite effect and trigger your stress response, because you're going to be like, oh, it's fucking on like Donkey Kong, let's go. And that's not what we are after in terms of bilateral stimulation for you guys. We are trying to access it as a calming and relaxation resource. So I'll pop a couple of links in the show notes, mostly like Spotify or YouTube. I mean, you can even just Google like, bilateral stimulation, and there's probably like different kinds of music options, but I find the instrumental ones to kind of be the best, but I'll pop a couple of links in the show notes. Additionally, if you follow me on social media, I'll probably, maybe pop a link to like a Spotify radio station type thing, or a YouTube one that play it. So you can get a bit of an idea about what it is and what it sounds like, and give it a try and see what you think. But definitely wanting to go more of the soothing, relaxation, calming ones as opposed to the ones with the tones, because I can't see that being optimal for some of the people listening to this. And I think additionally, like probably a couple of those sort of relaxation type apps, so like your Calm or Balance, I think is another one, probably have some kind of, bilateral stimulation options as a part of their app. I don't know a lot about that, but just saying it's probably an option if you already have like a subscription, or you've already got either of those apps downloaded, probably something for you to be able to check out. But yeah, that's about it. I'm sorry, this is a much longer episode than I intend the Mindfulness Monday ones to be, but had a couple of things to cover off, and I really, again, I don't really like to read notes that much, but I wanted to accurately describe what bilateral stimulation was, and just kind of share the benefits that are research driven, and that I think it has the potential to be a great resource for the first responder community. So yeah, like I said, let me know if you try it. Let me know if you're already into it and a massive proponent, and I fuck something up in my explanation, always happy for feedback. But yeah, I guess that's probably it. I will let you guys go. Thank you for joining me today, listening in on this Mindfulness Mondays episode, which is part of the I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness podcast series. Yeah. Until then, guys, let me listen in a way you've never been heard. Cheers.